Hello, beloved friends. You're welcome to our third episode on this series. My name is Jengo, and I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned over the years about knowing God, knowing our world, and what all these things mean. In our first episode, I shared with us about why do we even have creation? Why is there creation? And I said that, well, science can't answer that. And that question is left for the theologians and the philosophers. The Bible, as a core theological book, tells us that the world, the universe, and everything that we see, and the things we can't see, is from God creating the world for his own pleasure. Just like we do things for our own pleasure. Writers write book for their pleasure. Songwriters write songs for their pleasure. Manufacturers manufacture things for their pleasure. A lot of things we do them for our pleasure. We may call them hobby, but it's for our pleasure. All right. So you may now ask, okay, how did you get to know about this? As I said, it's in the Bible. So, okay, why should I trust the Bible? And that was our second episode. I said, well, the Bible is not just one book. It's a book of 66 different books written over a period of 1,500 years by like about 40 authors and in 3 different languages. So it's something that's the information in the Bible relies on previous information. That is, the newer writers had to confirm the writings of the former writers. And now you may ask, okay, where does this all go? And that leads to our podcast of today. How do we know what we know? How do we come to appreciate that, okay, this knowledge is facts and the other knowledge is not? Well, we have basically 2 ways of knowing. The first one is revelational knowledge, and the second is natural knowledge. The revelational knowledge is the one usually we don't learn, but somehow somebody eventually knows it. And much of the information between the supernatural world and the physical world rests on that kind of knowledge. It is called revelational knowledge. So most of the information that we see from the Bible came from that kind of stuff. God revealing things to people like Moses, to Abraham, to Jacob, to all the other prophets that came after them. Even down to the New Testament, we see God revealing things to Peter, to Paul, to all the other apostles. So that knowledge is revelational knowledge, and that is how much of that has to do with much of what we know about the Bible. Secondly, it's the natural knowledge, and that's knowledge that we all know by maybe going to school, looking at our environment, looking at our friends, and learning from our parents, from our family, and all that. So this is natural knowledge, and that's what we humans have thrived so well in. We go to school, we do research, we analyze data, we collect data, we analyze, and we come to a conclusion. This is how we usually know things. But that's not all. If that is all, then our world will be a very difficult world and boring one. But we have come to know that there is also revelational knowledge, the knowledge that comes from the spiritual world into the physical. And we see it in our lives from time to time, or we see it in our world from time to time. And a lot of things that people just wake up from sleep and they know some kind of things, and you're like, how did you know this? Of course, you know that there are some things that nobody will have told them, but somehow they knew. It's not just intuition, it is supernatural knowledge at work. So that's how we we are here. So I want us to lay this foundation before we get into the bigger things to come in future. So thank you for joining me today, like other days. What we have identified today is that we principally know things two ways: supernaturally and naturally. The supernatural knowledge is what we call revelation, and the natural knowledge is what we get from our environment, from our perceptions, from the things we see, we feel, and all the uh, ways we perceive our environment. So, all right, thank you. See you next time, and God bless you. And as usual, invite your friends to join us with next podcast. Thank you, and God bless you.